So last time around we left a phone ringing, and I think we should probably answer that before we press further into the hospital. Who knows, it could be someone with some useful information. Or it could just be the assistant calling from beyond the grave to see if his material for the prosecution against the island had gone through. But we are greeted with something of a small ambush after we answer the phone. Not too difficult, though it does have a new ghost that we will be seeing later on in later chapters. Still, as long as you've gotten down the combat, it's a pretty easy fight all in all. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and check on the examining room on this other side of the hospital. Feeling that we're going to have a lot more story elements when we get over while we are exploring over here, but first my doll sense is tingling. And there's our Hazuki doll. This one's pretty easy to find all in all. But that isn't to say we won't be finding a few more well-hidden dolls in this area of the chapter. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and check and see what's on the desk over here in the corner. Looks like it might be some more documentation to read. We find an interview from one of the patients, along with a little bit more documentation about Luna Sedata. Now, this doesn't cover anything too new, though it does tell us that under the effects of Luna Sedata, patients not only lose their memory, but will oftentimes go in search of the moon itself in what I assume is not meant to be comically called moonwalking, but I'm sure there's some humor there. But patients under the effects of Luna Sedata will often go in search of the moon, sometimes going into very dangerous places. But the exact psychological reason for this is not very well known to the doctors. It just seems to be something possibly centered around the island's cultural sphere, and its Kagura dance or its connections to the underworld. We are given a few options here. I think we're going to go ahead and check in what I think is the little reception area to the lobby here. I recall there being a few items for us to pick up. Yeah, there are a few there. But more importantly, it looks like a nighttime nurse is trying to draw our attention to something. And it's a very peculiar looking key. I'm not actually sure what that's going to be used for just yet, but we'll be finding out pretty shortly. In addition to that, amongst all these rows of bottles here, what I can assume to be medicine, are a few healing items, such as a nice bottle of sacred water, and another container of herbal medicine. Also, before you rush out of the reception area here, You do want to take a quick snapshot of another doll. Though this one does show the first time where the picture taking for the Hazuki dolls shows its finickiness, I guess is probably the best word for it. Also the somewhat awkward arm positioning that comes with the Wiimote, but finally got a picture of that sneaky doll. And with our new moon card in hand, I think we're good to continue exploring the exam rooms, the examination rooms. It looks like the assistant is trying to draw our attention to something in these small side rooms here. So we might as well go ahead and pop in there and see just what he was looking at. And in case you needed any more confirmation as to the facts you need to head into this room, the game is nice enough to give you another cue to head inside here. So before we can interact with that intercom system there, we do have a few more notes from the assistant here. This is, I think, where the assistant first really starts to question Dr. Haibara's methods. He seems to be confused by the combinations now of the doctor's modern take on medicine and also his continuation of past traditions, especially in regards to surgery and general upkeep of the patients. He also seems to be a bit confused about some of the terminology that the Islanders and Dr. Haibara use with patients, such as the state of blooming, which is the worst case, or the state of budding, which is the opening state of Lunasiddata. Also, it mentions here the state of resonance, which is apparently the possibility of transferring Lunasiddata as a contagious disease between people. But with that note out of the way, actually struck me that I totally forgot to listen to that interview, so we might as well go ahead and give that a quick listen.
テープ回りました。どうですか、気分の方は。顔が自分のものじゃないんです。違うんです。これは。それはどういう？鏡を見ていると時々。いえ、わかりません。もう見たくない。だから目を薬の量を増やしましょうか。もう見たくないんです。妹だってそう言ってました。違う。安心してください。必ず解放に向かいます。
So we see the continuing symptoms of Lunasiddata, along with the very lackadaisical nature of the doctor there, rather quizzically asking the patient if they feel they need more medicine. Even though we aren't given a subtitle for that piece of talking there, it seems there's a lamp on in the doctor's office, so I guess that's where we need to head next, but seems the assistant wants to have one more talk with us, and okay, here goes my first time of accidentally keeping the develop lens on and doing absolutely no damage. Yet again, can't really stress enough just the sheer frustration that can come with the complete optional nature of the develop lens. I don't really understand why only Choshiro has to use it, or it's in the game at all, but yeah, we finally do get to see the assistant's special attack, which is that flashlight. Does not seem like it does much, and in all reality, it doesn't. It's supposed to blind you, but as we'll see in just a second, it just kind of drowns the screen out in a high contrast, but everything is still very visible. Really, as per we've seen before, the environment is more of a hazard than any attacks that the ghost may do to us. Especially in these confined situations, you're not very sure what you can shoot the beams through and what you can't, and overall we're in a very tight confined space. Even if we head out into the hallway or to the other room, we aren't given very many options to attack or good angles to attack from. Guess it's just a good thing for us that the assistant is a pretty passive ghost all around. With him out of the way, we can go ahead and check and see what he was looking at over here, along with getting another Hazuki doll. Perhaps this little doll was helping with the filing. But if we look on the shelf where the assistant was standing, we will find another new key item, which is this very large ornate moon box. Seems to have an opening for 2 different cards. Currently, though, we only have the Waning Moon card, so I think we're going to have to keep a lookout for the other one to see just what is waiting inside that box for us. But as per that intercom call there, we're also probably going to be checking and seeing why that light is on in the director's office. I don't think that's too far away. Oh dear. It's another new mechanic for Fatal Frame 4, and another adaptation of the Wii Motion implementation. It's that ghostly hand. Occasionally, when picking up an item, the game will decide to put out a ghostly hand, which will start to drain your health if you don't waggle it off quickly enough, but as you might notice, we did lose our item, so it's honestly not a mechanic I'm too happy with. But that is the director's office there, but it looks like there's some stairs leading downwards, and we are wanting to head to the basement, so we might as well see if we can't find a shortcut down there. Looks like it's very much a dead end. But it's not a totally wasted trip. Outside of the Vanishing Ghost here, after we trigger it, we do get another item waiting on a nearby gurney. And it's the second moon card that we were looking for. So as we pop that into our moon box, we find that our treasure inside is a little piece of poetry, I suppose. This is going to be a clue for something coming up fairly shortly, but we see the red words here. They are going to be our primary clue for this puzzle, which is Magic Square. And though it may seem like there's nothing else down here, obviously the doll sense is tingling yet again. And this one is especially sneaky, as it is in a very, very difficult angle to get to, but it's hidden behind this wheelchair here against the wall. You really have to position yourself just right to get it into the light properly. For some reason, in this chapter, they felt like putting, I'm wanting to say, about 1/10 of the overall dolls in the entire game. Still not exactly sure of the motivation with that, but with this being a dead end, I guess we are going to be forced to check out the director's office. But hey, maybe we can find out more about Dr. Haibara's questionable practices. You know, Dr. Haibara is nice enough to meet us at the door. We might be going to another appointment and giving us something of a clue as to where we are going to be investigating in this office. First, though, there are a few things of interest to pick up in here, a few items here and there. Just have to make sure and ding them with our flashlight. First, we get a nice little storehouse of crystals. And also, you might have noticed it, but yeah, there is another Hazuki doll keeping watch over the doctor's fine work. Still needing to position myself just right. But over on the bookshelf here, we get our first real wording from Dr. Haibara himself. And it does give something of a revelation in regards to just how Dr. Haibara works, or where his methods come from. His family has apparently been the head priest family on this island for quite some time. And he's been using this family ancestral knowledge to combat Luna Sedada, but most interestingly, he points out that the masks, or some of the masks we've been seeing, they somehow stimulate portions of the brain and allow for this passage, this ceremony of passage, to go to the other side. But for some reason or another, during one of the Kagero dances, or during one of these ceremonies of passage, something went horribly wrong. And it It's what led to the island disaster a decade ago. But with seemingly nothing else left in here to investigate, there is something of interest on the doctor's desk. And it is this keypad. Now, we've already seen these starting numbers here on that memo we got in the moon box, but just a general description of what a magic square is in case you don't know. We just want to make sure each side of this 3x3 grid of numbers equals out to the same numbers. So we've already been given 4, 3, and 8, which is 15. So all we have to do is make the other sides equal to 15, so 4, 9, and 2, 8, 1, and 6, and 2, 7, and 6, which should unlock the door. And as you probably could have guessed from the vanishing ghost, there is something waiting for us behind that cabinet. So, with the questionable and pretty unethical practices that we've already found for the hospital, one can only guess what could be so horrible to have to hide behind a hidden doorway and a deep, dank passageway. If you said a horrible experimentation room, you'd be right. So get a very simple ghost fight. Not sure he was hoping to accomplish, but we took him down pretty quickly. But yes, Dr. Haibara kept some of his experimentation a little bit closer to his own office, and even more so under wraps than just being confined to an island. You can find a few of the notes here. Most notable is the fact that this goes into just what the surgery was hoping to do, which was, as far as I can tell, was hoping to stimulate parts of the base emotions and memories of the person to keep them from blooming in the hopes of making them not lose their memory, but really I think at most he was just getting a very baseline reaction from the body, like a death twitch. Still, he was definitely trying. With great risk comes great reward, I suppose. So there are a few more items to get in this ghastly chamber, such as some more blue crystals. Also, I do find this Victrola interesting, as I can only assume this was another piece of that lunar melody treatment that the doctor enjoyed using. And a few more blue crystals. Totally useful, but we do have one more final doll for this chapter, hidden away under the stairs here. But even though this room may initially seem like a dead end, if we look around a little bit more, we do find that there is another passage. It looks to be heading down even further. Definitely be leading us to the destination we've been trying to get to via the elevator. Very suddenly, we find ourselves in what appears to be a naturally formed rock cavern. So find on the ground here a brand new powered-up lens. Pierce, which I think is making a return from Fatal Frame 3, is mostly useless still. I probably won't have much use for it. I think it will penetrate through enemies' armor. I have to double check. I've never mostly used it, but this is a really bizarre change from the hospital up top. And I do feel like we're getting right where we need to be.
お母さんに頼まれてきた。もう安心だ。
嫌いか。
ここにはルカはいない。灰原もどこなんだ。